9.
It's a queen. Benita, what's the next card not going to be?
Oops, we're not hearing you.
All right, we're gonna
Two,
two.
two, two, she said. Thank
It's a
you.
jack. Janice will come to you in a minute. Susan, what's the next card not going to be?
Is there another Susan on here? Seven.
No, it's you. It's a jack. Nora,
Okay.
I'm going to ace again. Not going to be an ace.
3. Gordon,
7.
queen. Kathy,
Two.
7. If you're just joining us, you'll see what we're doing. We're playing a game called Card Predictions, and we don't get any wrong, so we just keep on going here. This is crazy. Kathy, did you guess?
Yes.
Shelby,
King.
Ace, Kim,
Queen.
10, Mary,
Ace.
4, Michelle,
Queen.
10,
Okay,
Brett,
we have 2 more minutes, Jed. Can we
Brett,
get through it?
The queen.
4, Benita,
5.
2, Janice,
Six.
Jack, Susan,
Three.
4. This deck is getting very small. Nora,
I'll go with not going to be a 7.
5, Gordon.
7.
Oh,
We got it. Oh.
However, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We had 7 left, so we got 45 right. That is fantastic. And the best part is that takes us right up to 12 o'clock. That's the start time.
It
What we
does.
were
And
do-
remind us one more time, Jed, for those who joined us late, why we
Yep.
played.
We call that an unofficial start. We always start before the start time for people who join early so people aren't bored. It encourages people to put their cameras on. It also hopefully creates a safe space where we can all have some fun together. No problem if we make a mistake. We laugh, we have fun, and hopefully it sets the tone for everything else that we're going to do together. So thank you all for playing card predictions with us. And with that,
Wonderful.
I will share, and it's Susan.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. I'm Sue Landay. This is Show and Share. I'm from Trainer's Warehouse, and Jed joins us from Roz and Jed and Roz Consulting, right?
Roz and Jed. Roz always goes
It is
first.
Roz and
You should
Jed.
know
Okay,
that.
Roz always goes first. Women power. And we're talking today about closers. So Jed and I met a couple of years ago, I think at training. I don't know. He's been a customer for a long time and is an expert facilitator. He's worked tons doing train the trainer at training expos and conferences, and also works lots with camps and children's groups. And I'm delighted to have you joining me to talk about this topic because I love this Cookie Monster quote. And actually, I don't even know if Cookie Monster said it or if I found it somewhere, but I forgot a lot of the material, but the chocolate chip cookies were amazing. That's kind of not what we want to happen at our
Cynthia Ward.
So I'm going to ask actually folks to, after that, just turn off your recording, your not recordings, your sound, so that if we don't have a ton of interruptions. And we will ask you to participate, of course, as we always do in our show and shares, but want to just make sure we don't have that feedback. So, Jed, why don't you forward this slide? Let's kind of take a look at where we're going to go. So, my first question for all of you is how much time, and this is a good chat question, do you typically allocate for reviews, reflection, and closing activities? And as you're typing in your answers, I am going to call out my friend and colleague, Katrina Kennedy, who recently came out with a book called Learning That Lasts, who reminds us that closers aren't just for the end of a session. We often and are encouraged to do reviews and reflection throughout a training session so that we can really make it sticky. But I think lots of us are probably like, who was it? Jed, who said not enough. Reflection throughout 5 minutes, 30 minutes. We're kind of all over the map. And I think that this, and sometimes as Jed and I were kind of prepping for this, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's sort of like we always have the intention of doing this either throughout or at the end and allocating ample time, and then things kind of get away from us and it gets short shifted. So I want to take a little time to talk about the different types of conclusions and closers we can do. So, Jed, let's take a look at that slide, and that's going to kind of frame our session today, our quick session. So, I kind of think of there being 4 different types of conclusions or closers, and this isn't anywhere special. It just kind of helps me frame my thinking. So, I think about games for practice. I think about reflection time. And then I think that those last 2 are a little bit different. There's committing to change, kind of talking to yourself and saying, okay, this is what I plan to do. And then the 4th, the memory triggers and the follow-up. So can you guys give me like thumbs up or yes if that is sounding like a good agenda for today, if that works for folks? All right. So let's just start, and I often don't talk about a lot of different tools, but there are a lot of tools and resources, and want to just call out some of these. So for practice, I think you're probably familiar with Teach Back, which is when you have students kind of teach a module or a piece of the learning to someone else. Great option to do that. I also want to take a little bit of time to talk about, like, when you think about, I have the Game Show Pro up here, which is like Jeopardy games and buzzer-based games, which are super fun, really energizing, but they're not necessarily for everybody. So I want you to just think about the difference between, like, if you were to use a traditional Jeopardy game, you have one team buzzing in to see who's first. Super fun, competitive. It can become memorable because it kind of amps up like the energy, but it also just has one person answering a question and then everybody kind of sits back and listens as opposed to coming up with the answer themselves. And it rewards the people who think the fastest. So I also have on this a picture of that, on this slide, a picture of answer boards, which are so low tech, but you get everybody writing an answer, thinking about something, and it's a really nice way to get everybody kind of thinking, participating for themselves. I have the wheel, the spinning wheel on this slide also because in Katrina's book, I saw an application using the prize wheel that I thought was kind of interesting and I wanted to share with all of you. And that is that instead of just using it for a prize for participation or even a question category, she would put in different questions that you might answer. For instance, what resonated for you? What would you do next? Things like that. And I also have session closers. So you could also grab some of these questions. Why is my top takeaway so important? A way that higher ups could enable or support change. So any of those kinds of questions on your wheel or on a thumb ball can get people kind of thinking about what happened and what that session is. If it were a team building game, and I'm sorry, that's closers. The session debrief is like to debrief your game, not just play the game. If it's a team building, if it's experiential, but then making sure that you draw out those aha moments. Things like what actions helped us progress towards our goal? What assumptions did we make? So kind of pulling out the learning from a game that you play. All right. Jed, any other additions to games?
No,
All
we're
right.
good.
Let's move forward to reflection then. Okay, we'll get Janice. Number 3 is tricky. What was the name of the book again? It's called Learning That Lasts. 45 plus activities. And I'm good. Yeah, I'll share a bunch of different resources. So reflection, a lot of the experiences or the activities in Katrina's book encourage us to write things down. Again, it's a physical experience. It makes you think for yourself. Tons of advantages to that. Jed, hand trace. Can you tell us about that?
I can. Hand trace is a simple little closer I like to use. I literally just ask folks to take out a white piece of paper and trace their hand just like they did when they were in elementary school making a turkey. And then I ask 5 questions, and I ask them to put in each of the fingers something they got from the session. So in the thumb, for thumbs up, I'll ask them to write down a good new idea they have. For the finger, I'll ask them to share something just for themselves. They're not sharing it back with anybody. It's just for them. Something that was pointed out to them in the session, either from us as the facilitators or other participants, because we don't believe that all the learning comes from the front of the room. In their middle finger, we don't hold that one up. We just wiggle that one. We say something you don't like that you're doing now that you want to change. For your ring finger, a commitment that you're going to make, something you're going to take back with you. And finally, for your pinky, just one small little change, something you can do real easy, real quick, that's a takeaway from the session. So we're asking the same question, but kind of asking it in 5 different ways, having them think about whatever it was that the topic was, and come up with 5 specific takeaways for them from whatever session it was.
Thank you. I like that. I've seen hands like used for voting and, kind of where are you? But taking each of the fingers and pulling out a closer from this is just really fun to me. I like the don't like. Um, so let's see, walk and talk. Well, I want to talk a little bit more about this, which is also a process. Well, walk and talk is like talk with someone as you walk. So again, a nice physical closer, give a question, have them talk about it as they're moving and walking. Another processing activity that I want to call out, I actually got from Angela Agresto's deck on brain building blueprints. This is another really great resource. If you can kind of move us forward again, Jed. So she has all kinds of activities for building connections, for introducing content, and she has one for conclusions and closers also. So her 4 on the floor activity I just pulled out. She tapes a flip chart to 4 flip chart pages to different corners of the room. And Angela, I don't know if you're on right now. I'm not looking at like who's with us today. So if you want to pipe up, please let me know. And on each of these are 4 different skills. And so she has groups walk around, like, kind of break up and write down on the flip chart something that skill brings up for them, something that they remember about it, something that kind of was a key point for them. And then they shift and they move to the next and the next and the next. So, the first turn around the floor for everybody is writing down those points. And then she has people take another stroll around looking at what others have written. So again, another way to bring physical activity, bring people together, movement, recollection. And Angela, if you're on and you want to unmute and say anything more, please do.
I don't see her there.
You don't see her. Okay. So anyway, great resource. She has these brain building blueprint cards, both for in-person and online activities. So thank you to that. Third kind of category that we introduced at the beginning, which I think Janice said can be tricky, is to get people to commit to change. And we do have our to-it tokens that you're seeing right there. This is what they're like in real life, that encourage people not to wait until they get around to it, but to do it. And so what are the ways that we can do that? So, and again, in Katrina's book, there's a lot. Katrina couldn't be here because she had another commitment. And So she said she doesn't mind my mentioning her, and I'm so thankful to Jed for contributing also. But so action plans, getting people to write down what they're going to do. We talk about accountability buddies. This probably isn't new to lots of you. Our I Got This notepads. This is a Trainer's Warehouse tool. Here it is. And so on this, you can see it says 3 things that I learned, 2 actions to apply what I learned, and 1 way I'll share my learning. So again, it gets you thinking about it, writing it down, talking to other people, all of which help you kind of commit to and make those things happen. Pause. Jed, can you talk
Good
to
idea.
us
I
about?
have a good idea for this.
Yeah, please.
For people who are coaches and trying to get people to learn and take action, this would be the 3-2-1 would be a great thing in one session for people to do all that writing. And then when they come back the next session, to have them all discuss what they did, what action they took, what they learned, how they could help others.
Thank you, Janice. I love that. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for popping in. I realized I was kind of on a roll, and glad I paused. Any other comments, questions, thoughts? All right. We'll continue to be open to it. Jed, tell us a little bit more both about the postcard ideas and the sticky note ideas,
So the
and how you
postcard,
apply these.
the postcard or the email to yourself, the postcard I use in person, the email I use online. And basically, you're sending yourself a message. For the postcard, I'll say, write a message, write 3 things you want to take away or something like that. And then come back and look at it in a week or 2 weeks, or if you're planning for a specific date in which you're doing something. It becomes a way to remind yourself well after the training. And the same is true with the email. There's a website. Sue, do you have that website? Here it is. I got it. It's futureme.org is the one we said was the good one, right, Susan?
Yeah.
I'll throw that in
Yep.
chat if I can do 2 things at once. Highly
I'll put it
unlikely,
in
but I'll
chat.
try.
Do you want
I
to,
got
can
it.
you load it?
I got it. Futureme.org, I think, is it. And what you do is you
Can
literally.
you throw it up on your screen for a sec? Or do you want me to?
Oh, now you're pushing me.
Oh, you can do it. You're so
Oh,
talented.
I'll talk, you put it up. I'll stop sharing. You talk, you put it up.
Okay, sounds good.
So with the future me, you can send an email to yourself, again, reminding you of something that you want to do as a takeaway from the session at a certain point in time. So if you're training trainers and you know that then the trainer knows that they have a session in 2 weeks, they send this to themselves for 1 day short of 2 weeks as a reminder that they're going to make sure that they hit all their closers and that they don't cut those out because they're running out of time. So it's a way to remind yourself in the future of something that you learned. The other thing that I'll do is I'll just hand out regular sticky notes, and I'll ask everybody to write just one thing, one change they want to make on the sticky note. And this gets back to what, let's see, who was it? It was somebody who said that. Janice said that commitment to change is tricky. So what I'll do is I'll ask them to just write one thing on their sticky note in a session when they have it. I'll ask them to stand up. When everybody's standing up, I'll ask them to just put it on their chest, rub it into their heart. And then the key piece is to fold it up and carry it with them for 30 days. Because that's what you really need to make change is repetition. I'll ask them to take a picture of it and put it on their phone or put it in their pocket and carry it with them every day. When they take their keys out at night, they put their keys back in the morning, they see it. And then I challenge them that if it's a conference, for the rest of the conference, anybody in the room, look around. If you see anybody else who is in this session, for the rest of the conference, ask them if they have their sticky note, or if it's a training at a workplace. Again, for folks who are in it, anybody who you see around your resort, in your office, wherever we're working, the next 30 days, ask them if they have their sticky note. And if they don't, they owe you something. And I let them decide what the O is. I don't like to put that on people.
And if it goes through the laundry?
If it goes through the laundry, it goes through the laundry. So that's how I use sticky notes.
Thank you, Jed. Anybody else have kind of clever ways they use sticky notes or walk and talks that they want to share?
I do.
Yeah, please.
I have them on their left hand. They take 5 of those small sticky notes, those little 1-inch ones, and they put something that they learned on each one of those, and those get posted on their left hand. They go around the room, high five people, or knuckles or elbows, however they want to do it. And then you show me yours, I'll show you mine. And so what we encourage people to do is to swap. So you want to swap with 5 people. So you still got your 5 in your heart, but you walk back with 5 more ideas that somebody else has chosen. And it's a get up and a move and a greeting or a farewell to people at the end of the day. It's a good summary.
Okay, so I'm trying it right now, Nora. Is this what
Yeah.
we're doing?
Yes. And then you turn your hand over like this, face it so that they can read it.
Okay.
And then
Hold on.
they reach out and they go, oh, I like that one right there. And they take it and put it on their hand. And then they go around and get more. And
So fun.
often people take each other's. And I've heard people say, no, you can't have that one. I'm keeping that one. They won't, they won't let one go. And I say, well, you're going to keep it anyway. It's yours, but no, but it's just a little interaction, but it's a way to have lots of facts or pieces of information reviewed real quickly.
Wonderful.
And
Thank you.
And Benita shared in chat that she's put those two, the postcard and the email ideal together, where she's done the physical postcard and then put stamps on them and mailed them to people. And Tolu, hopefully I said that right, has done the same thing, actually sending them to them. And
Excellent.
Catherine just raised her hand also.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of go off of Nora's suggestion. I do what I call best ideas. So I give them a blank best ideas sheet at the beginning of the training. I let them write their best ideas throughout the training, and every now and then we stop and I'll have them review their notes and maybe add 2 more to it. And then at the end, I say, pull that out, read the list, and now pick your top 3. And so they go through it, they highlight their top 3, and then I have them star their number 1. And then they get up and take their page and walk around the room. And similar to Nora's idea, they just read their top 3 or top 5 or whatever we've done to each other. And I tell them if you hear one from someone else that you just love, you can add it, but you don't feel obligated to add anything. You're just sharing your best ideas. But if you do hear one from someone that you're like, oh, yeah, I forgot that, I want to remember that, you can add it to your sheet. And so they're walking around, they're reviewing, they're reading their notes again, they're sharing, they're adding more to their list. And then I have them come back and we do a toss the ball number 1 from the entire day around the room. And it's super high energy and a great way to review.
Love
That's
that.
great. Thanks, Catherine.
Thank you. All right. Any other suggestions? Where we've
Go to
come
number
so
4.
far? Let's go to number 4. And Sarah, my colleague Sarah, I was going to ask you if there's a coloring book on the you know what coloring book, will you grab on the bookshelf? Would you grab it for me? I was going to text her, but okay. Memory joggers, tips and tricks. So, you know, one with this kind of piggybacks well, dovetails well with the postcards because they get them in the mail and they're a reminder. Thank you. Mnemonics, great reminders to come up with a phrase that will remind you of key points. The first letter of each of the key words, how can you make a phrase or a word that can be sticky? I've seen Legos used for where people create structures that will kind of remind them and talk about, discuss, process some of the key points from a learning session and create something with them, create a story. People encouraging people to tweet or Instagram, not just that they attended and here's our group picture, but some of their key takeaways with each other. Um, and then there's metaphors, and the image at the bottom of this slide is pulls from the climber deck, which have all of these images that people can create a metaphorical connection to one of the cards. But Jed, you have a way of using these and some other resources. So I want to give the floor back to you to talk about some of those ideas.
I love the metaphors idea. When I'm in person, I'll bring a bunch of paper bags that are just filled with all things that I find laying around my desk or office or house at different points of time. And I give each small group a bag. I like to keep the group small so everybody participates. And I'll ask them to go through the bag and come up with 3 or 5 objects and an example of something that they want to remember, take away from the session that relates to something that's in the bag. So this is one of those random bags. So this has in it a pencil that's not sharpened. It's got a playing card that's a joker. It's got, let's see what else is in here.
I know
I
you were
have,
telling me that you haven't paid for any of the items in the
I
bag.
haven't paid for anything in the bag. I have an old pill bottle. I have a plastic spoon. I have a little toy hammer from when my 30-something-year-old son was a kid. I have a Domino sugar packet. This one has, what else is in here? This one's got actually something that's going to change now. It's got a penny, which is going to have a whole new set of meetings, a button, a pony bead. And like I said, I have a whole bunch of bags and they're all different. No two are the same. And I'll ask them to come up with things. So maybe if it's a leadership one, we use the pencil to remind us that it's okay to make a mistake because we can always fix it. So don't be afraid to try something new and make a mistake. Or if it's a sugar packet, make sure to always be sweet when you're dealing with your employees. Or it's a spoon, don't assume that people know what you want them to do. Feel free to spoon feed them the information. I will tell you that the session attendees are much more creative coming up with things than I just did on the fly. And then we'll go around and we'll ask everybody to share their, if I might say, come up with 3, 5, 7, depends on how big the groups are, how much time they have, how much time we've spent together. And then I might share, give me your top 2, give me your top 3. We'll put them on a flip chart. And again, that becomes a takeaway for folks to remember in kind of a more concrete way than just stating it. And
So
then
Jed, can I ask you a question about that, about the
sure.
bag of stuff? Are there any things that you feel like have been really good triggers for people, really good metaphors? Like, or are all things created equal because people are just that will be creative no matter
If you
what you give them?
if you have a good session, all things are created equal. Ping pong balls do really well. Rubber bands do really well. But I like I said, I try to make every bag different. I'll put in a key. I have a key laying on my desk. I've got a clippy thing. I've always got carabiners around. So I'll always put in different things. Charging old chargers of different
Yeah.
sorts. Part of it depends on what the training is, but it's always with a good group. It doesn't matter what you can put in there. I can put
Okay.
in grains of sand, and people will come up with good things if it's a good group.
And
Um,
you have people working in small groups
Small
for
groups, yep.
something like this?
Yeah, I've
Okay.
probably got 20, probably 30 paper bags in my storeroom of different combinations of things, and I'll put in like 12 things at a time. And Mary, the answer to your question is, what is your prompting question? My prompting question is going to be, look at the things that you have in the bag and come up with a metaphor, something that each thing in your bag or 5 things in your bag remind you of that we have talked about in our time together that you want to remember, that you want to take away. What are some of the most important ideas you came up with? So hopefully that's helpful, Mary. She dropped that in chat.
Yep.
How many people, if you could put into chat, um, how many of you are working at this point in time predominantly in person, still predominantly online, or both?
Good
Online,
question.
in person, or both? I see a lot of boths and a lot of in-persons, a couple of lives. So the other thing that we needed to do during the time that we were all online is find a way to do a lot of our activities virtually. And the way that we did this one was, again, I literally just went through and I found all kinds of stock images of different things that are the kinds of things that might have been in the bag, like a dice or a wrench or a pencil or a sticky note or I forgot that word yesterday too, clothespin. Um, and I'll create a whole bunch of different slides and I'll put them in breakout rooms and give each breakout room a different slide that again has a different mix of items. This one has a pencil and a wrench, but it's also got a light bulb and it's got yarn and things that weren't on the other one. So I'll really mix them up and try to give them a whole variety of things that again, they can come back with something or several ideas of things they want to remember. So that's how we do that same activity, but we do it if we're on an online group as opposed to an in-person group where I have the actual paper bags.
Really nice. We're coming up on, thank you, Jed. Yeah, we're coming up on half past. And as we're talking about closers and the importance of closers, we wanted to share one and run one. And this is a circle, square, triangle debrief or closer, where I'm going to give you all the option of whether you want to come up with a circle answer, a square, or a triangle. So a circle is something that might still be swirling around in your head. Square, something you're squared away with and understood well, or some change that you're looking forward to trying, some new closer idea that resonated with you. So let's just take a beat to put those ideas in chat, and then we'll wrap it up. Awesome. And I'm working very hard at not talking while you're thinking and writing. Always note to self that we need to do that and give people time to think and process.
Yes, me too.
Right? So I'm going to share one other as you guys continue to write that in, a quick visual. We're going to wrap it up and then just again open the floor for just conversation and sharing. But this is something, my dad loved this tool. My dad started our company. So he'll say, when you came in, you didn't really have much of an idea of anything that we were going to be talking about. That's probably not true for all of you. What we've done is given you some outlines and some ideas that you can think about and try. But as you go forward, you're going to be adding your own color as you apply what we learned and try these things on your own. So just sort of a fun way of kind of sending people off. So that's my little closer after we've had our debrief here, and I'm seeing lots of ideas and takeaways. But let me just open it up to you. And again, Jed, thank you for doing this with me and for your suggestions and sharing. And there are so many closer ideas out there. Again, please take yourselves off mute and chat with me. And yes, here's how to get in touch with me and Jed anytime.
And somebody had a comment that I had here, and then it just flew by about timing and how you get these in. And on the original poll, I said not enough in terms of how much time you have. I'm looking for who asked the question and it just flew by me, unfortunately. I'm sorry about that, but I did see it. And yeah, I mean, that's the biggest problem, right? We have so much content we're trying to get in our sessions. How do we have enough time? And I think the answer is that some take more time than others, and that's really what drives it for us. Metaphor, if I'm doing a full day session or a multi-day session, I'm okay doing 20 minutes of a closer with metaphors because there's a lot they can get out of it. But if I'm only doing an hour session at a conference, I'm going to do sticky note because I can do it in 60 seconds. So I think that that's a big part of it, is to have a variety of options that each take different time, different amount of time, and use the right amount of use the one that matches the time. And it was actually Lumbee Davis who asked that. So thank you for that question, Lumbee.
I
And
think
Brett raised his hand.
also we need to ask ourselves, as instructional designers, what's needed for processing in order to make the material memorable? What do you want people to take away? And, if you've had, there might be a team building game that takes 5 minutes to do, but it's going to raise so many questions and so much, you know, raise so many issues for people. You really want to give them the time to talk about it and to think about it and to reflect back on it at the end and think about what they're going to do with that going forward. So, yeah, I think that let's remind ourselves of that. Brett, yes.
Yeah, real quick. Just one of the things that I'll do when I'm closing out a session, you're running on that euphoria. It was a great session. I'm going to make these changes. I can't wait. But we also try to ask the participants, what are some challenges that you can anticipate? So that they anticipate them ahead of time. And while they've got other people still in the room who can provide them wisdom for how they'll overcome those challenges. Because obviously it's just not realistic to think simply because I learned this, I'm going to go out here now and the whole world is just going to open the door to me for my change. We've got to be prepared to overcome them when we encounter some resistance, which might be coming even from our own selves.
That's great,
Absolutely.
Brett.
Thank you. Thank you. Gordon and then Hillary.
Yeah, mine's sort of a comment, but also kind of a question to see if this makes sense that you could use one of these closers for like a part of the session, and one of the more brief ones, the soccer ball, passing that around and answering questions, and then later on, if you like say a 6 hour or 8 hour training, later on have a more in-depth option. I think that makes a lot of sense to you don't have to just stick with one. And if it's not working for you, if it didn't work for you earlier, maybe try something else.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
And I would also say that to both of you, some of the questions on the closers get to not just what do I want to remember, but those steps going forward and what can I anticipate as, like you said, Brett, as being hurdles and how am I going to overcome them? And in any set of closer questions, you may want to you may want to include a range of questions like that.
And I think, Gordon, you raised a really good point, and somebody else just jumped on that also, Catherine, which is that we've called this closers, but the reality is that these closers, to a great extent, are also all reviewers, and we shouldn't just be waiting till the very, very end to review stuff. We should be doing it as we go along, and I think in an experiential fashion, it's important to do it in different ways, not do the same thing every time, but throughout the course of the training, you can do these things that you can do it right before lunch. You can do it every time you take a break, and then you save the big one for the end of the day if you have a long training. If you're only doing an hour, then you might just do one at the end, and it might be a combination of a closer and a reviewer.
Yep. Hillary, who I went to college with.
We did. And hello.
Sorry.
That was great. So I'm delighted to be reconnected with you, though I've known about the Trainer's Warehouse. My first time here. And what I wanted to do is say thank you because I realize interactive, been training and teaching forever. And I needed to kind of punch out my little dings where I started to shrink myself because maybe I got a comment here or there that it was a little too weird or, something. And I listened to that versus being on a whole webinar with a bunch of people going, oh, yeah, do this, do this, do this, do this. And I love all the ideas, some I've done. So I just feel like I got pumped back up again. And I appreciate that very much. So thank you all so much for that.
Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Hillary.
And
Who
Janice
also knows
Lippman.
Hillary?
Thank you so much. I know Hillary Blair well from National Speakers Association. I learned this idea years ago, and I don't remember who taught it. Probably a trainer taught it to me. So as Jed said, I do a reminder after every key takeaway. I do a physical motion like stop and audit is stop, audit. I tell them to say it to me, turn to their neighbor, turn to their other neighbor, and then there's a different move for each takeaway. And then at the very end, we do them all one at a time, set to music. So I get them dancing and clapping and stepping and then yelling out the takeaways, and they laugh. And then I go up to them later and I said, what was your favorite? And they all remember stop and audit, but
Awesome.
it's fun because it's experiential.
Well, and all of these kind of remind me of Sharon Bowman's six trumps of memory and learning, of brain-based ways to remember. And it's physical and it's colorful and it's writing and it's movement and it's change and difference and all of those things that make us remember. Because our brains we're wired to forget, and so all of these things that we're doing and talking about, and the brain science behind it is like, if people aren't sure why we're doing this crazy stuff, Hillary, like these are the reasons, right? These are the reasons.
And somebody asked that also. I think it might have been Brett, the importance of always sharing the why. And if it wasn't Brett, I apologize. But it was somebody who in chat talked about the importance of sharing why we're doing these things and not just doing them for the sake of doing them.
Right. And which is why when we did our unofficial start game at the beginning, I also had, where we were playing a silly game, a card game, not necessarily related to the content, but I had Jed kind of repeat, we want people talking, participating, having fun, connecting. There is a reason, and making that explicit sort of helps people buy into it, I think. Thank you all. I think, Janice, you asked what trainings we have coming up. Thank you for that prompt. So I'm not sure if you're asking specifically about the show and share format like this, because I have we have a schedule, lots of actually, I'm just going to copy this and put it in the chat. We have so we do these every 2 weeks, and so that's what's coming up. So inclusion and supporting neurodivergent learners with Julia Fallon. I often have someone join me for their expertise and just kind of different voices and perspectives. I personally actually have a session coming up at training in Orlando at the end of this month on using brain-based learning to make learning more energetic and fun. And I don't do a lot of travel or presenting because I'm kind of keeping the business going here, but it's always fun for me to do training events. So.
And Roz and I will be in Orlando also. We're actually doing a 2-day pre-conference that is all activities to make your training stick, as well as a session during the conference. That's a really nice conference, and if anybody wants 2 days of just activity after activity to use in training, we're going to have a good time Saturday and Sunday before the conference starts.
Thank you. Rosie has a question for the whole group. All right, so if you don't have to leave, stay tuned. Does anyone have an activity where the instructions, if followed, give an individual different outcome than if they follow it as a team? The takeaway would be working as a group rather than in a silo. What a great question. Let's just, I want to just give a pause to think about that. The first thing that's coming to mind to me, Rosie, are teams working alone versus two teams working together. I know of a few games like that where they kind of necessitate people coming together or sharing pieces, like a puzzle where you can't do it if somebody else has some of the pieces that you need. Um, Other folks on the call, though, please, if anything's coming to mind to you.
Like, I know I do.
Yeah,
Nora, tell
I
us more
love the
about
puzzle.
the 1, 2, 4 all. What are you thinking with that one?
Well, 1, 2, 4 all is first you invite them to solo reflect and think for themselves, and then two, they turn to one person and they pair share to practice and to sort of work it out, and then four, they come together as a group and share and cream for the best ideas, and the best idea gets said to all. 1, 2, 4 all.
Thank you.
And you have that handout somewhere you could
I
post
do.
it.
Yes, I do. I don't want to look for it right this minute, but I'll share it with folks afterwards. But also thinking about just like an activity within itself that's going to yield a different result. Aside from the puzzle, I know there's a tangram kind of game. It's called Seeing the Point. Sarah, if you're still on and can share that link, I don't know if you are. Where basically you have these tree shapes, and if you're just using the puzzle pieces that you're given, you can only make four of them. But if you work with somebody else, you can kind of add another one upside down or something like that, depending on how you work, or you see the void between the pieces. Activity was, sorry, just reading. It's a group of buttons. So Jennifer, thank you. That I don't know if that could work for you, Rosie, also. I don't know. Have we hit anything?
Take a
Or do
look
you want
at
to talk more?
Yeah, no, I was just trying to find where if you were given the same set of instructions but kept tunnel vision, you got one outcome versus if you expanded to my resources without being told, I may have a different outcome because you're not told you can't use your resources, right? Like I'm trying to get to that and I've just gotten stuck on the actual execution of that.
Can you say that
There's
again, Rosie?
also, say
So
it
I'm
one
trying
more time.
to have the same set of instructions. If you view them in your own lane and stay in your lane and just work as an individual, you get one outcome. But if you had thought about utilizing your team, you would get the better outcome.
So a couple of other thoughts. And Sarah, I think that there might be a game like that in the Lego activities for trainers.
Legos, actually.
Legos. I think there's one game just like that, but there's another one that comes to mind that I've seen both in using Legos and drawing called Build a Duck or Draw a Duck. And you just tell people, draw a duck or build a duck, and you see how different they might interpret that instruction. But I think in that card deck, there might also be an application of something that's a twist on that. And in the second one we're off, if you want to stay on, I can grab it and look more deeply at some of those games.
Yeah,
I do
Rosie,
think that there's one there.
I think there's a lot of games, Rosie, that you're better as a team than you are as an individual. And we've done some like that. There's one where you line up 16 cards and there's a challenge in how you move the cards around, and we'll have them do it individually, and then we'll have them do it in pairs and have them do it in fours. And almost universally, the bigger the group, the better your outcome, meaning the more cards you can stack up. There's also Sue, there's also the Team 10 Tic-Tac-Toe. Is that the name of Jim's game?
Yeah.
Which is another great activity that we like to use where you have to work as a team and you can see that as a team you're gonna do better than if you did it individually. You really can't do it individually, but you see all the things that the different members of the team contribute. Um, I don't know about the directions one, but a lot of team building activities I think can elicit that response. Somebody talked about the puzzles one. We buy dollar puzzles. We put them in different, put the puzzle in a different bag than what it's supposed to be, and switch some pieces around. And nobody can put their puzzle together unless they use the resources of everybody else in the room to share their pieces. Hopefully that's a little helpful.
Thanks, guys.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking. All right. Anybody else? Any other questions or other favorite activities?
I'll share one more.
Yeah, please.
I like to mix metaphor with closure with challenges. So recently in a training for trainers, I had about a dozen elephants. I always have an elephant in the room. There's always an elephant in the room. So I have a stack of elephants. The table team goes and chooses their elephant of choice. And then they talk about what's the elephant in the room for you in actually applying what you learned during this workshop. And so it's the metaphor, there's always an elephant in the room. There's always something that's going to stop us from moving forward. And then that's the first round is what is your elephant in the room? And the second round at the table is who can help you get past that? How can you might as well take a look at the elephant. It's in the room. You might as well acknowledge it. And so it helps people to not feel alone in that they're sitting there thinking, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. They don't give me the resources. They don't give me the time. They don't prioritize it. There's a whole bunch of don'ts that happen when you ask people to change. So acknowledging the elephants and helping and supporting each other in how to get past the elephant, to get around it, or to ride.
Yeah, that really leans into Brett's idea too, right?
Yeah.
Like, what are those really spending time on that? I also heard of long time ago when I was consulting the idea of thinking about, of Band-Aids versus a real solution. So like, are the things that we're doing a Band-Aid, or do we need to kind of go back and diagnose a much more difficult problem that exists? And using that kind of metaphor or approach can help. One other thing that I was just thinking of, like when we were talking about things that you can take away, those little like squeezy foam squeezy things that you get at conferences in all the different shapes. We've had them with keys and light bulbs, but you can write on those with just a ballpoint pen. And so we're kind of discontinuing that product. I think we've probably had it for like 20 years, but having people write some of those reminder points on a squeezy that comes back to their office, or using as a metaphor something like, Jed has his bag of stuff that people, might they won't want to take with them, but you could do a similar thing with, a fidget toy or something else that then goes home with them as a desktop reminder. Just a few other ideas to throw out. There are so many. As, we have books of them. I think actually Becky Pike Pluth has a book of closers also.
They have a couple. Bob wrote a couple.
Yeah.
Score has closers. There's Score. Looking at my bookshelf, there's Score. There's more Score. There's a bunch of them.
So we're just scratching the surface, but thanks for scratching with us. All right, guys. Have a great rest of your day. Jed, again, thank you.
Always a pleasure.
You're doing this with me.
So we're going to play Can You Top This? You had somebody you went to college with, Joy, who's still on, and I went to elementary school together.
I just saw that. That's awesome. Yes, that wins.